Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 5.95, and in this lesson I'm going to walk through and show you guys how you can create just one instrument layer to house the majority of your samples, or at least the samples that you really want to use. Now, I actually don't really recommend this. I don't recommend you have like a million samples sitting on your hard drive because you're probably never going to use that many. But if you have a collection of, say, 100 kick drums you really like or 100 snare drums you really like, that's totally fine. And what you might want to do is have one place where you can house all of them. Or if you're a producer who has to make a number of different genres, you could have one of these particular instrument layers that is for electro house, or one that's for dubstep, or whatever other genre it is that you're working on. So I'm actually stealing this idea from what the people at Dubspot did with the last drum rack you'll ever have to make. So this isn't really anything new or original. It's just the Bitwig way of going about it. So I'm just going to use the Bitwig samples that they have for their kicks and stuff. But what you would probably do is you would have a folder, and in that folder you'd already have your samples laid out. Now, the trick to this is that you can't have more than, I don't know, something like 90 odd samples in any one of these folders. I don't know the math exactly, but as we go through and make this, you'll be able to figure it out and understand. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to grab a number of these kicks, and I'm going to start them at C-1. I'm going to grab like 1, 2, I don't even know how many. I'll just grab a bunch to start. Hold Shift, drag, and drop them in like so. All right, I'm not sure how many that was I grabbed. I'll go and I'll grab some more. All right, so these are all of the kick drums in this particular folder. If I wanted, I could go to other folders and add in more, but for now, I'm going to be happy with that as it is. Now, right now, if I wanted to play these back, I'd have to, start my range way down low, and that's just not super practical, okay? It's going to be kind of obnoxious. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go in here to the sampler instrument itself, and I'm going to pull the release all the way up to 10 seconds so that no matter what, we hear the entire sample. Like so. All right, so that's how you do that. And then what I also want to do is adjust this velocity sensitivity. I'm going to pull the velocity sensitivity down to 0 at the moment. And then what I'll do is I'll right click this and I'm going to say copy value to all layers, and we can see that we have 79 kick drums in here. And I can go copy value to all layers. Maybe I'll turn the output down a little bit. Copy value to all layers, and now every single one of these samplers is going to have those exact same settings. So you'll have to go in and do that for each one of these categories that you're going to be making inside of your instrument layer. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to, at the start of this, I'm going to add in a note effect, and it's going to be, gotta make sure I'm on the kick one. Oh crap, I put this in the wrong thing. I'll rename this one kick. And we'll just delete the other two for right now. You'll see where this is all going in a second. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add in a note pitch shifter. And by default, I'm going to pull the semitones all the way down to -48. And now I'm just going to pull this up so that I should be playing, let me just check to make sure my math is correct. I should be playing a C3. I am, which is perfect. Okay, and I'm going to make a MIDI clip in here, and this is what you'd have to then kind of go and do by default. Make a MIDI clip at C3 because our release is all the way up. It doesn't matter how long it is. And now I could play this back. And depending on the style of music you're making. And now all I have to do is adjust this semitone value, and the reason why I want to put it at C3 is because I'm allowed to go down to -48. You could make this where you could change octave ranges, but it just ends up being more work for you. So I think it's smarter to just get in that perfect number of samples, because we can go -48 and +48. So let's see where that's hitting. It's hitting all the way up here, which I don't know what note that would be. It would be a C7. So let's just go ahead and find a few more drum samples so I can make this example perfect for you guys. Okay, so we have a couple extra. Okay, so the brilliance of this is that all I have to do is now just adjust the semitone. And so I can scroll through all of these samples and I would find one that I like. All right, so when I find one I like, I figure out which one is triggering. Then all I do is I copy this drum chain, go into my new drum instrument, I'm sorry guys, you don't want to do it that way. You'll copy the sampler, go into the drum machine. This is when you know I don't use these things very often. Go in here, put in something like a sampler, and then I paste it in like so. So you can get those samples exactly what you want for whatever track you're making, and this is just the way you'd be able to go about and sort your drum samples. And so I can go all the way from down here all the way up to the very top, and let's just make sure that this one has its values copied. It doesn't, so I'll go through and change this again slightly. Go in here, I'll copy the value to everybody. And now I can scroll through like so. So what you'll want to do is have like a folder already with 96 samples that you really like, and then drag and drop. I could add in another one of these drum machines, and then this one maybe would be kick 2, all right? Or it could be clap, or it could be snare. And then what you could do here is the exact same process. And I would go in here and I'd find some snare drums. Okay, I want to start down at the C-1 range. If I can find it. All right, we'll just grab in a few here just for the sake of example. So we pull those guys in. We add in another note filter at the start. Note pitch shifter, excuse me. We could pull that all the way down. And voila, now we can look for and find our snare. And then we would go back in again and we could copy and we could paste in whatever it is that we want to use. All right, so it's a really, really handy and cool trick. And then the best part about this of all, you'd have to go in here and again, resave all those parameters inside of the sampler. But then you could take this, you could have snares, you could have claps, you could have whatever you want, and you can just solo out whatever instrument you're looking for and find the sound that you want to use. So I don't think it gets any easier or cooler than that. And then at the very end of it, we could go in here and we could save this device, save it into our user library, and that would be our huge drum selector like so. The pity is that we can't actually map this, but that's okay because it's really easy. Just go in here and scroll through. We don't really need a macro mapping, and it's more exact this way too. As I pull up and down, I could go through every single one of these samples. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. You just have to build on top of this, and it's not going to be for everybody. If you don't use a lot of samples like myself, you're not going to build one of these. But for those of you who are forced to produce a million different styles of music, something like this can be really helpful because you don't even need to have 96. It could just be like 20, but it's per genre specific. So this helps you sort everything out. It's a great way of bringing in samples from the outside world and having them all stored inside of Bitwig so that you're not constantly in your browser going through and previewing these one at a time, because in this case we have this going, and if we were then building our drum machine, for example, I could go in here and I know that that's going to be at C1, so I could put this in like so. And then all I would have to do is move that over, go in here, solo the snare, and then I'd have to go through here and look for a snare drum that actually works. Obviously none of these are working very well, but So maybe that's what I'd want. It's just a really, really cool, easy technique. And I know that this is something that a lot of people wanted to know how you did in Bitwig. And it's just as easy as what you have access to in Ableton, and I think just as powerful. So thank you so much for watching, and you'll hear from me again in the next lesson. Take care.